Heavy rain pounded the roof like war drums. Adora sat alone in the cold hospital corridor, her hands trembling as she clutched the white envelope. Her name was neatly printed on it, but everything else about this moment was messy. She stared at it, then stared at the wall, then back at it again. Her heart was thudding so loud it felt like a drum inside her chest. She could barely breathe. Her mind was racing. What if it's positive? No. God, please. I've been faithful. But he hasn't. Please don't let me pay for his sins. Her fingers slowly tore open the envelope. She unfolded the paper, and then, her mouth parted. Her hands froze. The letter slipped from her hands to the floor like a falling leaf. Positive. She let out a sharp cry, raw and broken. She covered her mouth as tears rushed down her face. Just then, her phone buzzed on the chair beside her. It was Tony. Baby, please. I promise I'll never cheat on you again. Please just come home. Adora stared at the message like a ghost. Her hands, shaking. Her heart, shattered. There was a time Adora believed she was the luckiest woman alive. It was a beautiful Saturday morning in Ikoyi. The sky was soft, the sun gentle, and love was in the air. The crowd gathered under a white and gold canopy, clapping and smiling as Tony gently lifted Adora's veil. You're the only woman I'll ever love, he whispered, eyes sparkling. Adora smiled with all her heart. She was slim, glowing, and deeply in love. Her white dress hugged her body just right, and everything about the day felt like a dream wrapped in lace and prayers. Tony was the man of every woman's dream. Tall, rich, handsome, confident. And somehow, he had chosen her. I'll never hurt you, he said as they danced under the bright lights at their wedding after party. No matter what happens, you'll always be my queen. Everyone clapped and shouted, God when. They moved into a beautiful apartment in a quiet, secured estate in Lekki. They cooked together, laughed at silly movies, kissed at every chance. Adora told her friends, Tony is different. He's not like other men. I love him so much. He's my peace. She believed him with everything inside her. And for a while he truly looked like he meant every word. It started with small things. Tony no longer rushed home after work. The laughter became less. He began to complain about every single thing. This food is so tasteless. How could you cook something this terrible? He would say angrily, or, you look so fat. Why don't you try reducing how much you eat? Adora sat in the living room, breastfeeding their newborn daughter, her tired eyes watching the clock. It was almost 10 p.m. Tony had said he would be back by 7. She dialed his number again. Sorry babe, I'm in a meeting, he whispered over the phone. But she could hear music in the background, and a girl's laughter. She swallowed her pain. She had gained weight. Her hair was always in a scarf now. Her nightgown had become her everyday outfit. The Adora in the wedding pictures was gone. And she knew it. So she tried. She joined a gym, started drinking slimming teas, skipped meals, even wore waist trainers under her clothes at home. But nothing seemed to change fast enough. Her reflection still made her sad. One night, while doing laundry, she picked up Tony's trousers to wash, and a pink lipstick stain stared back at her. Her hand froze. No words. Just silence. That kind of silence that screams. When she confronted him, he looked surprised, but not sorry. So because of one lipstick, you think I'm cheating? You've let yourself go, Adora. I'm a man. I have needs. Her chest tightened. He was blaming her. Adora stood by the door with her bag packed. Her heart was heavy. Tears lined her eyes. Their baby girl slept quietly in the crib behind her. Tony walked in and saw the bag. He froze. Where are you going? She looked at him, her voice shaking. I can't do this anymore, Tony. You lied. You cheated. And you're still cheating. He walked up to her, calm, like he had rehearsed this before. Ada, I messed up, okay? I admit it. But I love you. I swear I do. He knelt down. Please don't leave. I don't want to lose my family. Her lips quivered. "Tony, how can you be cheating on me and expect me to just sit and do nothing?" she whispered. "Baby, I promise it won't happen again," he said. "I'm ready to do better. I'll go to church. I'll cut off the girls. Please, for our daughter's sake." She stared at him. This was the man she married. The man who once called her queen. He was crying now and he looked sincere. Maybe there was hope. She sighed deeply, dropped her bag, and nodded slowly. "One more chance, Tony." He hugged her tightly, and for a moment, it felt like maybe things would be different. For a few weeks, Tony pretended. He came home early, took Adora out to dinner twice, prayed with her at night. But it was all an act. Behind her back, he was worse than ever. In the morning, he'd kiss Adora goodbye, drop their daughter off at school, and promise to head straight to work. By noon, he'd be in a hotel room with a girl from Instagram. By 3 p.m., he was with another girl in his car. By evening, a third was already waiting in a friend's apartment. Some nights, he still squeezed in a fourth girl, just because he could. Tony was a man on fire, not from love, but lust and recklessness. At home, Adora cooked, cleaned, took care of their child, and still tried to work part-time from home. She wanted to make her marriage work. She needed to make her marriage work. But sometimes his boxers came back with lipstick stains. Sometimes she found hair extensions under the car seat. Sometimes she smelled cheap perfume on his collar. She would cry quietly in the bathroom. Not just from pain but from shame. One day, while doing laundry, her daughter walked in and said, "Mommy, why do you cry every time Daddy goes out?" Adora froze. Even their child had started noticing. Still she stared. Not because she was weak, but because she was tired. And tired women don't run. They sleepwalk through the pain, waiting for the day it finally ends. Tony didn't hide it anymore. He no longer cared who saw him with other women. He picked them up in broad daylight. He flirted over loud phone calls while Adora sat beside him. He brought strangers into their marital bed when Adora traveled to visit her mother. Once, Adora went to a supermarket in Lekki and saw him. He was at the juice section, feeding a light-skinned girl strawberries and calling her baby. He didn't even flinch when their eyes met. He simply said, "You should have called before coming here." Adora walked out, hands shaking, lips numb. She cried inside her car for hours. At home, things got worse. He stopped eating her food. Sometimes he wouldn't come home for 2 or 3 nights, and when he finally comes home he would say, "I was at a business trip." One day, Adora found pink lace underwear in the bedsheet. She held it in her hand, stared at it, and quietly folded it. Not because she didn't care, but because she was too tired to fight. Tony's insults became normal. "If you looked half as good as those girls, maybe I'd stay home. Don't touch me with that body of yours. You look like a fat pig. You're just the mother of my kids, that's all." Adora stopped replying. She stopped dressing up. She stopped checking his phone. She stopped expecting apologies. She just existed, like furniture in her own home. One Sunday at church, the pastor preached about adultery. Tony laughed and said, "That man is clearly not married. He doesn't understand men. He doesn't understand that men have needs that even their wives cannot satisfy." Adora felt her stomach turn. She looked around and noticed women staring at her with pity. Some already knew. Some had seen him out. Some had probably been with him. The shame was now public. She cried herself to sleep that night again. But something inside her whispered, "He's going to destroy you if you don't leave." The humiliation was no longer private. Tony had become a neighborhood embarrassment. One evening, she went to pick her daughter from school. The security man at the gate looked at her with pity and muttered under his breath, "NAWAO. This one no say her husband they carry girls like Uber." She pretended not to hear, but her ears burned, her chest ached. Later that week, a woman knocked on their gate. Light-skinned, long lashes, loud chewing gum. One of Tony's girls. "Good evening, ma. I'm looking for Tony. Adora blinked in disbelief. Excuse me? He said I should wait for him inside. I used to come here before. You're his wife, Abby? Adora didn't say a word. She turned, closed the gate, locked it. But the girl laughed and shouted from outside. You fit lock gate, but you no fit lock your man. Mumu wife. That night, Tony came home drunk. Adora tried to stay silent, to avoid any drama. But as she helped him take off his shoes, he mumbled, You think I'll ever be satisfied with you? Look at yourself. You're not the woman I married. She stared at him. For a moment, she didn't feel sad, she felt empty. Like her heart had died and left a shell behind. He passed out on the bed, snoring, smelling of cheap cologne and beer. Adora sat on the edge of the bed, watching him sleep. For the first time in their marriage, she didn't cry. She just sat there, completely numb. The next morning, she went to buy sanitary pads at the pharmacy. While waiting for her change, two girls beside her were talking. One said, That man Tony EHN, the way he was hammering that girl at Lakeside apartment, Omo. The other laughed, Is it not that same man with the fat wife? Adora's hand clenched the pad in her purse. The pharmacist handed her change. She walked out slowly, legs weak. She knew now. Tony was not just cheating. He was mocking her. He was destroying her, piece by piece. That night, she stared at herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize the woman looking back. Eyes sunken, skin dull, soul cracked. She whispered to her reflection, I don't even know who I am anymore. And for the first time in a long time, she began to pack her bags. It started with tiredness. Tony, once full of energy, jumping from girl to girl, began to feel weak. At first, he blamed it on stress. I'm working too hard, he said. These girls are draining me, he joked to his friends. But then came the cough. Dry, persistent, followed by weight loss. He began to sweat at night, soaking his shirt, tossing on the bed like a man on fire. One morning, Adora walked into the kitchen and found him crouched on the floor, shivering. Tony, he looked up slowly, his lips dry and cracked. I think I need to see a doctor, he whispered. At the hospital, the tests began. Tony grew irritable. He snapped at nurses, yelled at Adora, refused to be admitted. But his body was failing. 2 days later, Adora got a call. She was asked to come to the hospital alone. She walked into the small, quiet office with trembling hands. The doctor adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. Mrs. Tony, we ran several tests. Your husband is HIV positive. Adora froze. What? We need to test you too, ma. And your child. Just to be sure. Her mouth went dry. Her head felt hot. Tears filled her eyes. How long? She whispered. Judging by his symptoms, this didn't start yesterday. Adora walked out of the hospital with shaking legs. She looked up at the sky and whispered, So this is how it ends. At home, she said nothing. Tony lay in bed, scrolling through his phone, pretending nothing was wrong. She stared at him quietly, her heart numb. She had been faithful. She had sacrificed. She had kept every vow. And now, he had given her a sickness she didn't ask for. But she didn't scream or cry. She simply walked into the bathroom and locked the door. He couldn't hurt her anymore. The next morning, the sun rose like any other. Birds chirped. Car horns echoed in the distance. But something inside Adora had changed, forever. She woke up early, packed her daughter's clothes into a small pink suitcase, folded her own clothes into a black one, and placed her test result on the center table like a bomb she wasn't afraid to leave behind. Tony was in the bathroom, coughing hard. He called out, Ada, please bring my drugs. Silence. When he stepped out, the house was quiet. His eyes scanned the room. Suitcases gone. Child's toy basket empty. The front door slightly open. Then he saw it, the white paper on the table. He picked it up, opened it, and froze. His own wife. Positive. He slumped onto the couch, shaking. She had left. Without shouting, without begging, without warning. She had finally done what he always thought she'd never have the strength to do. Outside, Adora sat in the back seat of her friend's car. Her daughter rested her head on her lap. The wind blew through the window, brushing her face like a soft goodbye. For the first time in years, she felt free. 2 weeks later, Tony came to her sister's house. Unannounced. He knelt on the floor, tears pouring, voice cracked. Adora, please. I'm sick. I need you. I'll never cheat again. You're the only woman I've ever loved. Adora stepped outside slowly. She looked at the man on the ground, pale, thinner, broken. And Softy, she said, this is what you get when you take love for granted. I stayed too long. I won't make that mistake again, Tony. She turned around and walked back inside. Tony remained on his knees, sobbing. And for the first time, it wasn't a performance, he was sincere. But it was too late. 6 months later, Adora stood on a small stage in front of a group of women. The banner behind her read, "She Rises, Women's Health and Healing Summit." Her hair was full again. Her skin glowed. Her dress hugged her curves. No shame in her body, no fear in her eyes. She held the microphone gently, smiled, and began. I stayed with a man who cheated on me for years. I blamed myself. I begged him to change. I prayed. I fasted. I almost died waiting for love from someone who didn't know what it meant. The room was silent, every woman holding her breath. It wasn't until I got my HIV result that I realized the only person I needed to save was myself. Gasps echoed softly. Adora continued, you don't owe anyone your life. Not your body, not your peace, not your second, third, or fourth chances. She looked into the crowd, her voice calm but firm. If love hurts you over and over again, it's not love. It's slow poison, and you deserve to live. The women began to clap, some standing, some crying, all inspired. Later that day, as she packed up her materials, a young woman approached her. Thank you, the girl whispered. I was planning to go back to someone who nearly killed me. But your story just saved my life. Adora smiled and held her hand. I'm proud of you, darling. As she stepped into the car with her daughter, the little girl looked up and said, Mommy, are you happy now? Adora looked out the window, then at her daughter, and smiled deeply. Yes, baby. For the first time I really am.